right, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Our topic today is discovering new markets. Learn how to sell your goods and services to the Government of Canada. So today, as a reminder, if you're online, you can use the chat features, and those icons should appear at the bottom of your screen. So if you don't see those, look also for the three dots, and that'll open up a more option for you. So we'll be using the chat and the Q&A, and John's already putting in there in the chat window some tips and tricks for today as well. And John, I just want to say a quick hello, make sure that we can hear you here before we get too far into this.
Hi there.
Yes.
I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
Great. So just wanted to do that little test. So good morning, everyone.
Awesome.
My name is Carrie Lee Auger. I'm the Skills Development Manager here at Women's Enterprise Center, and I work out of our Kelowna office. I have the pleasure of overseeing all of our training and mentoring programs, including forums such as this. So if there's another topic that you're interested in that you'd like us to consider, please be sure to share that with us as well. We'll send out a quick follow-up email and with a quick survey, and we'd love for you to have some input in there. And for those of you that maybe this is your first session or first time joining us, Women's Enterprise Center is a nonprofit organization devoted to helping BC women start, lead, and grow their own business. Our full range of services includes business loans of up to $150,000 with access to an additional $100,000 through a new partnership that we have with BDC. We also provide business advice, skills training, mentoring, resources, and a supportive community to help women entrepreneurs realize their business potential. And we do this from our offices located in Kelowna, Vancouver, and Victoria, and in many online forums such as this, so we can reach all of you all across the province. And our passion is to empower women entrepreneurs to their business success. We're funded by the federal government through Western Economic Diversification, and we're part of a Women's Enterprise Initiative, which includes similar organizations in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. And you can learn more about us and these other organizations on wec.ca. So for today's session, our topic is discovering new markets, as I mentioned, and I'm excited to have joining us John Johnstone, who is the Regional Director of the Office of Small and Medium Enterprise Pacific. And today, John's going to tell us about which departments and agencies are likely to want to buy your goods or services, how to navigate those government websites to find what you need, and then figuring out what the end user is going to want that you are going to bid on a job, and emphasizing the unique service offerings that you have. So we are now on Zoom and new platforms. So John, I'm going to hand it over to you, and hopefully grab and share your screen like it worked perfectly in our test the other day.
Okay, let's see what happens here. So stop the other screen sharing. Do you want to continue? And we're going to go here. We're going to start here.
Perfect.
All right.
I see the buy and sell website. So John, it worked.
Perfect.
Again. Success.
Okay, so we're going to work through this, and Carrie, if you can, just let me know as we go whether or not something glitches in terms of the screens, because I'm gonna probably show multiple screens. I have a presentation deck in the background that we will share with all participants and registrants for today's session. But the PowerPoint deck itself is one of those things that I would prefer that you don't actually dive too deep into it right away. What I want people to do is I want them to be able to dive into the websites, and I want you to be able to look through the websites. That's where you're going to take action. That's when you're going to do something with this information. And then you use the PowerPoint presentation as a background piece that can help you with jargon or understanding terms or understanding the various things that you may want to consider as you're considering doing business with the Government of Canada. So a little bit about OSME, a little bit about our Office of Small Medium Enterprises. So basically we're like a concierge service that is designed to help entrepreneurs understand how to make better decisions when they're looking at government procurement. So selling goods or services specifically to the federal government, but just so you're aware, generally speaking, a lot of the similar practices apply right across the board, whether you're looking at the federal government, the provincial government, municipal governments, the MASH sector, which is municipalities, academic institutions, schools, or hospitals. And also, if you're considering providing goods or services to Indigenous communities or First Nations, that can also be an important part of this. So understanding the nomenclature, understanding how to position yourself can be very important, because this market space can be very overwhelming. So one of the first things that we often talk about with people is our buy and sell website. What I'm going to do is I want people, if possible, to grab some of these links that I'm suggesting here. I will put any of the links to the websites into the chat window as well, so you have them. And if any questions come up during the session, if you can, just write it into the chat window. I'm keeping an eye on it, and where possible, what I'll do is I'll address the questions as we go. So I see a couple of people have already put in some information regarding what industry or business they're involved in. And if more people want to do that, please do it into the chat window. And that way I can make sure when I'm looking for examples or I'm looking for particular directions, I can follow the ones that are most appropriate for you. Okay, so that is that. Okay, so next up, I'm just exploring here a little bit as I go, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can get a couple of things happening here. Okay, so I'm going to try to share a different screen if I can. Again, this is a bit new to me as well, so I'm just going to create a new share, and let's see if I can get this up. Let's see if this actually creates. So if I can just get a thumbs up if you can see the presentation deck in a presentation format, that would be wonderful.
Yep, that's what I'm seeing here, John. It looks great.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you very much. So this is our presentation deck that we're going to be using on the way through. So I just mentioned the small, medium enterprises. The thing to think about with us is that we're basically your one-stop shop for introduction to government procurement. We also, though, are a good location that if you have questions about any other support programs or objectives of the government of Canada, you can usually call us, and we're usually 1 degree of separation from about 60 different programs. If you have a company that's in the innovative space, or you're more focused on R&D type stuff, you can give us a call and we can forward you on to different funding support systems or support systems in that space as well. So there's a lot of opportunities to use us as a front desk or concierge service for anything you're looking for your business as you're trying to navigate through the federal government processes. So some of the objectives typically in our presentation seminar is that you have to know where you're looking. You have to know how are you going to make decisions quickly without wasting your time, given the fact that as small business owners or individuals representing small businesses, you don't have a lot of time. You're trying to get through all of the things that you've got to do to get to the business, to solve people's problems, to provide goods or services. And the sooner you can do that and get to a decision point as to whether or not you want to continue looking at the federal government or any level of government or institutional buyer, the better. Like, you do not necessarily want to be spending weeks of effort going after our work unless you know that there is a good correlation between what we're purchasing and what you're selling. If you can't figure that out, it's better to put it aside for a bit, contact our office, and work through this as a long-term goal. Doing business with the government or any large institution takes time, and it's got to be part of your long-term business strategy to move forward. So that's one of the things that I certainly want to stress. Okay, so I'm looking through. Some people have put some stuff in. We've got people that are looking at graphic design, interior design, arts, materials, music, starting own businesses, looking at stuff to delivery for hospitals, design drafting, commercial maintenance, school safety. Now, all of these things are things that the government either directly buys or indirectly buys. We'll talk a bit about that as we kind of go through this deck. One of the big things I want companies to recognize is that there's usually a location within the supply chain for you to provide goods or services to the government. It may not always be direct, and you may not always recognize how you're actually accessing government markets at first until you can really make the connection. So if you have someone who is doing, let's say, for instance, massage therapy as a simple example, well, you may not be selling that service directly to the government of Canada all the time, but you may be able to access public servants who have medical plans that are allowing them to use your services. If you are actually looking at providing stuff to hospitals, well, there's situations where, yes, the government of Canada has hospitals, but we also support provincial healthcare systems. We have the responsibility for management of populations, whether it be armed forces, whether it be veterans, whether it be our prison systems, whether it's also supporting First Nations communities and Indigenous communities through various types of transfers. And as you know how the federal government moves money to various jurisdictions or to various projects or various programs of work, the more you can align yourself appropriately to get to that work. One of the things with contracting with the government of Canada, if you've never dealt with government procurement before, it seems very frustrating sometimes at the beginning. It's new language, it's a new system. It's not as simple as going and getting a coffee with someone. There's the responsibility of government to ensure that we are properly managing taxpayers' money. And that often means that there is much more requirements for us for reporting and transparency, which can often feel like a burden, both for the public servants who are trying to buy things and for the companies that want to sell us goods or services. But it's a requirement, and it's one of those things where if we don't actually acknowledge it and we don't know how to deliver on that, it can get really, really frustrating for everyone. One of the big things over doing this, I've been doing this now for over 10 years, that I often say to companies is that you have to understand that the process, the government process, is actually a deliverable. It's actually part of what is required. And if you don't understand it as a deliverable and you see it as a frustration, the likelihood of you being successful is going to be lower. So it's kind of like the Marshall McLuhan thing, that the medium is the message. The process is a deliverable when you're dealing with government, and you have to incorporate that process into everything you're doing, because you have to understand that if you're chasing opportunities and you're doing a pile of process in the wrong direction, you can invest a lot of your time and limited resources in a direction that may not lead to the same return on investment that you may have found going in a strategic direction. One of the big things we often talk about with companies when they're looking at doing business with the government of Canada is that if you're a smaller firm, you need to figure out a couple of things right away. Does the government buy the thing that you're trying to sell us, the good or the service? And if so, what is typically the method we use for purchasing it, and how often do we purchase it? And do we purchase it in your local area that you're willing to deliver? So if you're a consultant who's willing to work in Ottawa, we probably have a higher opportunity or a larger opportunity for you to do business with the government of Canada as a consultant than if you're a consultant who is trying to provide services in a 100-kilometer geographic area outside of a major center. And you have to understand where the opportunities can reside, and then how to position yourself to get the most opportunities, really, to be perfectly honest, with the least amount of effort. So one of the big things with the Government of Canada is understanding that often with our processes, you have to register yourself. So there's a number of registration pieces here. And if I'm going to be able to do this, I'm going to do a quick change to my share screen, and I'm going to go back to the buy and sell. By the end of this, hopefully I'm going to be much better at this. But so far, it looks like it's worked.
Yeah, that was very smooth, John. No, we're good.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. I'm working on this. So with the buy and sell website, there is a business tab for business tab, and I'm hovering over it right now. In that tab, you're going to find a lot of the nuts and bolts information that you're going to need to register and to start looking at opportunities to sell stuff to the Government of Canada. The problem is that this is written like a government website. It is very difficult to navigate. It is not necessarily always that intuitive. And one of the things I can always recommend is that for me personally, I would take the presentation deck that we're going to supply to you, and I would look at the buy and sell website, and I would actually go back into Google, and I would put register your company, which is the slide I was just showing you, and buyandsell.gc.ca, and it will actually work really well. The buy and sell website is built on a very, very powerful search engine. So even though on the website we use a lot of government jargon and a lot of government communication style, if you use simple language and you use elements of the buy and sell website in Google, you often can very quickly mine through our website, and you can get to the information you're actually looking for. So, but within here, one of the things that I would immediately look at on this site here is supplier registration. So within supplier registration, we have a thing called SRI, Supplier Registration Information System. And by going in here and clicking through this process and actually registering as a supplier, you'll need your business number or GST number, and you need your legal business name. You can go in there and you can start to actually design your government profile. This is not necessarily something you need to do to start marketing yourself to government, but it's a good first step, because one of the things that's located in this process is called the goods and services identification number. So there's a thing over here in the bottom right of the screen that says browsing GSIN codes. We're going to get into this in the presentation deck a little bit, but at the end of the day, if you've opened up this tab on the buy and sell website and you've looked through here, you often can very quickly figure a couple of things out. There's another point over here for contacts for GSIN codes. GSIN codes show up here. So this is the goods and services identification number. The government doesn't always call a good or service a commodity what you would expect to call it in your industry. If we were trying to buy art supplies, we wouldn't necessarily call it art supplies. Maybe we call it administrative supplies. Maybe we call it audio-visual supplies. And we don't necessarily call a coffee table a coffee table. Maybe we call it a coffee cup holding apparatus. But the GSIN codes are the same. So the GSIN codes are our methodology for naming something using a specific coding that otherwise there may be 5 ways to refer to that object, and we may be referring 5 ways to that good or service in French and English. So it's an important thing for you to recognize that as you start diving into this, the first thing you have to figure out is, what do we call the thing that you're trying to sell us? Once you understand what we call it, then you can start asking the questions about, do we buy it? How often do we buy it? And what method do we use to buy it? So that's one of the big things. I'm going to go back to the deck now. And what I'm going to do is I'll go back to the slides, and I'm going to do this. There we go. And so as you start looking at this process, the buy and sell, I'm going to skip through a lot of these slides. There's about 60 slides in this deck. We're going to talk about 20 of them, 25 of the slides maybe. But again, the idea is that I want you to have this as a resource. It will come your way afterwards. But the biggest thing is, in my mind, as I go through this presentation, is getting these websites or these different pages and bookmarking them in your search engine, so you have them, so you can go back and review them later. And because it is being recorded, you can always go back and go through some of the presentation as well to be more helpful. So we just talked about SRI, we talked about registering. The big thing in this, in my mind, is getting that goods or services identification numbers. And once you have those, you can start using the right language when you contact a government person. So this is one of the critical things, and this is true if you were like trying to market yourself to Canadian Tire or Walmart or in Canada or the Royal Bank of Canada. You need to make sure you use our language when you're trying to explain your products or services. It's really critical to use the view of your audience when you're actually trying to sell or deliver your sales pitch. The more you use your own language, the more disconnects that can be created. So one of the things, like, you know, using some of the examples, one of the individuals put into the Zoom group chat window that they're actually harvesting kelp to make seaweed. If you actually think about it, the government of Canada likely buys that product in one way or another. But typically what we are doing is we are using a couple of big suppliers that are supplying basically wholesale food through to the government of Canada. And what you want to do is understand that you're actually looking to be part of the basket of goods delivered by our prime contractors that are providing wholesale level food and beverage to our organizations. So if you're able to like think about what I just said, it kind of thing sounds like a different language. But what I'm actually doing is I'm articulating something that may not be obvious to anyone in government you're talking to, because maybe if you said to someone in government, hey, I'm selling seaweed products or I'm harvesting seaweed, they may immediately say, well, I have no idea how we would do that. But if you use the language that we use and you know the organizations that may be buying food or food services, then all of a sudden you can find a better opportunity and know how to structure that. Maybe you're only looking to deliver your products or services for a contract under $5,000. And we'll talk about thresholds. Thresholds are really important based on who you're talking to in government. One of the other strategies that immediately would like to talk to is if anyone on the webinar is an Indigenous business or is partnering with Indigenous businesses, you can follow up directly with me to gain more information on the procurement strategy for Aboriginal business, which is a process where the Government of Canada can put aside or set aside certain contracting opportunities that are specifically either delivered for Indigenous communities or would have a vested interest for Indigenous communities or businesses. So I've just put that out there. If you are someone in this space, make a note. We have someone actually come through and mention that. So for people that are in this space, please follow up directly with me after the presentation. We'll make sure you have all of my information, and we can talk about some of the elements that may help assist you in looking at some of these other opportunities. And thank you everyone for actively using the chat window. It's really helpful and it really makes this much more interactive as we go. So one of the big things with the Government of Canada is the concept of building networks. Like, it's really weird because it's not like your normal business community where you go out and you do a reception with a bunch of other people in business to try to find overlapping opportunities. When you're building relationships or networks with government, you're often doing so to gain information on our processes, because I often say to people, again, it's one of my little sayings here, is you need to build the relationship with the process, not necessarily the people. So I'm just going to put that in here, build relationship and understanding with the process. And the reason is that people in government switch jobs, just like any industry. So the people that may be managing one process in one moment may not be the people managing that process a year from now. We're also experiencing a major turnover. We have the baby boomers leaving the workforce in government. Often these people have indexed pensions. They're not necessarily sticking around and coming back on contract work. So the more you understand the processes, the more you can then steer or choose your own adventure in dealing with government. If your relationship is totally built on an individual being in a role, that can have risks associated with it. So we're always recommending that, you know what, you have to understand the process, you should know the people that are in the process, and you have to know what their empowerment is. Often I say that you're looking to talk to people for 3 reasons. You're gaining information, you're trying to get them to refer to you to a decision maker, or they are a decision maker. And you need to know what that person's role is in any business marketing situation the moment you start engaging them. And in government, it's okay to ask someone, do you actually have a spending authority? Can you actually buy my goods or services directly? Can you actually look at the right ways to influence people by getting a referral? Because people may really love your good or service. They may really love the energy you put into your work, but they may have zero empowerment. Myself as a director, or typically as a manager, I can easily spend up to about $5,000. For me to spend between $5,000 and $25,000, it gets more complex. And if you want to spend over $25,000 in a government context, it is even more complex. So knowing how to manage those relationships, not only with people, but your relationships or your understanding of process, can be the make or break in a lot of scenarios. So this is basically what I was just saying as well. We're going to talk a bit about how to get those relationships. So what I'm going to do now is, assuming I can do this, I am going to add a new window here. So unfortunately, behind the government firewall, I don't see this website exactly the same that you are going to see it. So the website that I'm going to pull up is called the Government Electronic Directory Services. Okay, so we call it GED. So in your browser, if you put in GEDS space Sage, like the herbs, SAGE, and then you put in space federal, you're going to come out with what's called the Government Electronic Directory Service. And this is one of the most powerful tools that you have at your disposal as someone trying to sell stuff to the government of Canada. Now, assuming I've done things right here, I'm going to try to pull this up. Okay, let's go for it. All right. So with the Government Electronic Directory Service, this is kind of, your opening page you're going to look at is going to be a French or English option, but this thing is incredible, and you won't find this for a lot of other organizations that you're going to have the opportunity to market yourself to. This is a listing of approximately, let's say, 150,000 people within the government of Canada. And what you want to do is you want to be able to find people that can provide you more information, that can refer you to a decision maker, or that are decision makers in your process. In the government process, it's very rare that one person holds all the empowerment or responsibility in a setting. So the idea of procurement, or the people that buy stuff, are not always the people that use the stuff in government. They're often two different people, and you need to know what both of their needs are moving ahead. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to search for myself. So I'm just going to put in John Stone, and let's see if we can find me in the system here. So there's a lot of other people in here who are also having my last name, of course. But as you scroll down, you're going to find, hopefully, myself. I'm right here, number 19. I'm going to click on my information. Now, this gives a bit of a profile, and again, this is inside government, so your screen may look slightly different. But if you've gone through a bit of a similar process that I did, you can get my name, my phone number, my email address, and my work address. The bigger thing, though, that I always love to let people in on is the secret that on anyone's personal card like this, if you scroll to the bottom, there is a list of hyperlinks that show basically the decision tree or the tree within the database where I can be found. If for any person in the government of Canada, you go down to the bottom link here and you click on the bottom link, what it's going to do is it's going to bring up my organization with all of the members of my team. So you now get to see who is my boss, who I am, who the administrative assistant is, who is the strategic advisors, who's providing various support. So depending upon what you want to sell to us, you may not always want to go to the regional director first. Maybe you want to go to the manager. Maybe you want to go to the supply specialist to determine what the needs are of the organization. Get all the information together, and then once you have the information, you go back and talk to the decision maker, who may be the regional director or the manager. So this, for me, is a very, very important tool, and it's very powerful. It doesn't have anyone in it necessarily for the RCMP, National Defense, or CSIS, or for that matter, CRA, that for security purposes, and because some organizations work differently. But you can go in here and you can find people from Parks Canada. I'll show you where I mean to go here. So under search and browse, you can go and you can actually search by departmental listing. And if you do this, and assuming I did this correctly, you can actually now scroll down and you're going to see the majority of the organizations that are with the Government of Canada. Now, this can be absolutely overwhelming because there's about 160 organizations under the Government of Canada. You don't want to try to sell to all of them. It'd be really nice if you could, but at the same time, what you typically want to do is find 3, 5, 7, 10 organizations with the Government of Canada that maybe you know something about. Maybe you have an interest outside of your company in photography or environmental awareness, or maybe you have an interest in boating. Well, what I always recommend is that you try to find a couple of the organizations that have similar interests or mandates to things you're passionate about. And one of the reasons is because you could probably sell various types of administrative supplies, office supplies, like things that would be considered art supplies, to almost any organization of the Government of Canada. But if you have an interest in a certain area, it could also be possible that you could talk the same language. Maybe you could actually understand that organization's mandate, which would make them a little bit more willing to listen to you, to work with you, to help you down the road. Because if you know nothing about security-related organizations, maybe starting with the RCMP, National Defense, or Border Services would be the wrong approach for you. So you need to be able to look at this. And the other thing is to understand that all of these organizations are also doing work with other prime contractors, with other big companies across Canada, where you could also get in and be part of their supply chain. And we'll talk about a bit about that. So if people have any questions at this point, please make sure you're putting them back into our chat field so I can stop and make sure I'm addressing any of your questions. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our presentation deck, assuming I can do this again. And I'm going to press OK. Great. OK. So the next thing we're going to do is research. So as a small business owner, you're often very passionate about what you're doing. But, geez, if you have the time to research your market space, I mean, it can make a huge difference. And in this day and age, if you can actually look at like whether it be the federal government, provincial government, municipal government, there's a couple of things that I often say to people. Look at the website for a couple of the organizations that you have a keen interest in supporting. Look at maybe their wording, their mandates. Every government department receives a mandate letter from the Prime Minister of Canada, and mandate letters are also at other levels of government. So if you know what our targets are right now and what we would like to do, you can often then engage us differently, use different language, understand what our needs are. And trust me, in government, like any organization, if you can help an organization work smarter, faster, you can provide greater result, you can help them meet their mandate, you're going to have their attention. But if you cannot articulate why someone should be listening to your sales pitch or wanting to buy your product, or you're continuously focusing on how great your product is rather than how it actually solve someone's pain point, you may be missing the point. Oh, so I had a question come in that said, how do you find this directory again? I can't seem to find it by Googling GEDS and federal. So there is, what I may suggest is www.geds.gc.ca. I would try geds.gc.ca. Unfortunately, if I try it within my government firewall, it will immediately redirect me in different ways. But if someone could just throw that in and see if it actually comes back with the same directory, just give me a yes or a clarification in the chat window, and I'm happy to see if we can do it a different way. But that may be one of the ways to get to it.
Hi, John. That's not working for me. It's Carrie Lee here.
Okay.
But let me just do the search.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's geds-sage.gc.ca.
Okay, so they've actually incorporated both the French and English, the English and French, into that link. So hopefully that's helpful. And if people could try that out, that would be great. Because like I said, that is an incredible, powerful tool in helping you get there. Okay, great. Thank you for letting us know that it worked for you. Okay, so the other thing is prime contracting versus subcontracting. We were talking about under $25,000 opportunities with the government. If you're engaging a municipal government, provincial government, anyone, ask them about their thresholds, because that can actually impact whether or not you want to be a prime contractor. Obviously, if it's a $20,000 deal, you want to be the prime contractor. You don't necessarily want to give that away. But sometimes subcontracting can be very valuable, because in government, just like a lot of larger organizations, we bundle contracts. And at OSME, off small medium enterprises, we don't necessarily always love bundling, because it really can take away opportunities from very smaller companies that have limited capacity or specialization in one field. But when this does happen, what you want to do is go out and find yourself strategic partnerships with other organizations that are also looking to bid, but may not have the full skill set, or you could be the missing link to their bid process. I've talked to one or two companies recently where one of the things they said to me is, our job is not to be the prime contract. Our job is to be the subcontractor for our area of specialization that is noted on the bid of every bid submission. So every large company that's going to submit bids, they want to be the subcontractor responsible for a certain capacity, for a certain deliverable, which almost guarantees them the work, right? If you can set up those relationships with multiple other larger companies, wow, there is so much opportunity in business-to-business relationships out there. While a lot of companies, when you first enter the market, your first point of contact or your thought is, you need to sell to a consumer. You need to sell to someone who is that end user of a product or goods or services. But it's, as companies mature, they often find themselves being way better placed when they can actually deliver their goods or services into the supply chain of other larger companies that are downstream from them. So one example I'll show you of a company that does a lot of business here in British Columbia with the government of Canada. Let me pull this up if I can. I'm going to go here and then I'm going to go back to my sharing and do this. Let me do that. So this company here is called Cspan, S-E-A-S-B-A-N. They've got a flashy website where things flip around quite a bit. But the reason I'm using Cspan as an example is because one of the things that they are doing through Vancouver shipyards and Cspan in general is they're doing a lot of shipbuilding. In your market, you may not say to yourself, well, I build ships, I don't weld ships, I'm not a ship's captain. Or you may even say to yourself, well, I'm located in Kelowna or Fort St. John or Prince George. Like, what would I have to do with ships? But what you don't always understand about our supply chains is Cspan has like a $9 billion contract over 20 years to build ships on behalf of the government of Canada. They are often very interested in having companies be part of their supply chain. What I'm going to do is I'll show you. They actually have a supplier portal over here. They have supplier relationships and a supplier registration. So just like we were talking about earlier with the Government of Canada registration process, you're going to find that there's a lot of companies out there that also have similar mimic processes that are delivering on behalf of the Government of Canada projects. So there's a lot of work moving through Cspan. It may not necessarily be the best fit for your company, but it's something to have an awareness of because there's dozens of these companies that are winning contracts that we're talking in the hundreds of millions, if not into the $1 billion over periods of time. So one of the things that you can actually look at, I don't know if they still have it here, is they actually had a piece here associated with the shipbuilding contracts that they were doing on behalf of the Government of Canada, current programs. Let's see if I can click here very quickly. So Victoria class subs, Royal Canadian Navy programs, national shipbuilding programs. So this is the big one that's over the period of time. So just have an awareness that these exist. This is only one example. What I'll do here is I'll show you another one. I'm going to hopefully be able to go to a new link here, and I'm going to put in Brookfield, F-I-E-L-D, Johnson Controls, B-I-B-G-I-S. Let's see if this comes up. So the two things that just came up on this web portal that I just showed you, one is their actual open solicitations, which is really cool that it opened there. And these are opportunities, but I want to show you the website first, if I can find vendor information, BGIS. Let's see what happens when we go here. Assuming this works. This may be particular, it's a particular reference number. So I'm going to get out of here. Again, I'm just snooping around. Just controls. Just trying to find the right spot to go. I want to go to this one, but I don't necessarily want to go to it first. And what I'd like to find is their full website. Just stand by here. I'm just going to put in BGIS. And I'm going to put in RP1, that's a government term for a contract. Aegis open list solicitations. Aegis, let's just go. Wow, they're Merck cited. So what this is showing me is using the search engine. I'm using Bing right now just because it's the government. This is what the government does to you. So instead of using Google, if you use Google, it probably comes through a lot easier to go directly to their website. I'm just going to open up a new tab because I'm already going down this rabbit hole. So google.ca. And I'm going to put in BGIS. Let's see what BGIS comes. There we go. Thank you, Google. So what this will do is BGIS is a website. I want to be in Canada, safe selection. And I'd like to see their whole menu. But I just want you to be able to see this on your own end, what they do. So BGIS is basically the facility management services for the Government of Canada. So they basically are they are managing all of our buildings. So if you're in any area that's providing cleaning services or repair services, or you want to provide lighting services or new technologies in the government buildings or what have you, you want to know that BGIS exists, because in fact, they are the people that often up to $1 million, they have $1 million in direct contracting opportunities that they can directly work with companies on that are part of their supply chain. So what you often want to do is find out what is their registration process, right? So they actually have over 8,000 subcontracting vendors globally. You want to know that these guys exist because maybe this is important in your line of business. But I just wanted to show it as an example. And they do have a number of solicitations available through a website called Merx. So we showed you the buy and sell website, which is our tendering website. Just go back to it. So this is where you're going to find, this is like our Craigslist. This is where you're going to find any of the information that the Government of Canada is posting about contracting opportunities. But there's third-party repeater feeds, different organizations out there that grab all the information on opportunities for different levels of government, and they actually they have their own website. So Merx is an example of that type of website. So if you're looking for other government contracting opportunities, you can actually go in here. They have Canadian public tenders for provincial and federal, and you can actually go in here and look at a variety of areas or industries or commodity groupings, and you can see all the active tenders that are currently listed. Now, with the Government of Canada ones, though, you eventually want to work your way back into the buy and sell website. And I'm just going to go into new today, and that way you see it. So I know I'm jumping around a little bit here, but the important thing is to think about a couple of different items here. You need to know who is buying stuff on behalf of the Government of Canada. That will help you determine whether or not you would like to be a prime contractor or a subcontractor. But I'll tell you, a lot of times the opportunity to subcontract can be overlooked. And I think it's really, really important for you to look at those options to make sure you're fully understanding where the opportunities are as you move forward. All right. So there's lots of people that help you, but if you know that our office exists, that OSME exists, then that's all the better. I just want to double check. Was there any new questions? No, it looked good. So finding opportunities. Keep going back to the buy and sell. You're going to hear me sounding like a broken record as we go through this, but we're going to the tendering webpage. I'll go ahead here and we'll move forward a little bit. So benefits of using buy and sell is that you're going to see all the federal government stuff. Probably a disadvantage of the buy and sell is that you're only seeing all the federal stuff. You're not seeing any of the provincial stuff. You're not seeing province of BC stuff. So what I often would do right now is say, show of hands, people that have looked at the BC bid site. But I'm just going to show it to you because this is another important one for you to consider bookmarking. Okay, so this is the buy and sell website. I'm going to open up a new tab here. And typically when I do this, first of all, hopefully it works. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in BC bid. All I do in my search engine is BC bid. And basically it should take me to a redirect here. Once I get it, hopefully it opens up and it's going to show me all the provincial tenders. Okay. So what I'll do is I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste this into the chat window. Let's see if that works. Okay, I think that should have worked.
Looks good.
In here, you can, sorry, go ahead.
It looks good. We can see the BC bid site.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so the big thing is down in here is that you can actually browse opportunities. Now, there may be a bit of a redo on this happening in the next year or so, but I just want to let you know that, even though I represent the Government of Canada and the Government of Canada buy and sell website, there's a lot of stuff out here for people that may directly influence how you look at opportunities. And my job is to help you be successful. It's not to make sure that you're bidding on government work. It's making sure you're bidding on the right work that has the most appropriate opportunity for you. So I mean, like, Camosun College, additional simulation in healthcare equipment. We did see some people that were interested in healthcare opportunities. Well, this could be a really good place for you to start rather than the federal side as you move through it. So I'm just scrolling through this, but it's a recommended stop for people on the way through. Okay, I'm going to go back to the presentation deck now. Just go to here. Okay, there we go. Open data. So the Government of Canada has made it a point to make all of the data they have accessible. If you are someone who is a data junkie, that you love writing code for Excel or Python, or the stuff I'm saying right now makes you excited, or you understand what I'm saying right now, talk to us about the open data that is available on the back end of the buy and sell website. We have 10 years of contracting data available, but if you don't have experience, it's like getting hit with a fire hose of government spreadsheet information or data, right? So just know that if you have an interest in understanding open data and actually mining Government of Canada data, let us know and we can point you in the right direction that would hopefully be more helpful than just going and downloading files that have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of line of metadata or code that may not be of any value to anybody. So just know that, and it's available if you want to use it. Same here. This is the same slide, basically. We talked a bit about procurement under $25,000, and I think it's really important to stress that if you want to test drive your opportunities with the Government of Canada, even if you're a consultant that is selling services, if you could get a $20K contract with the Government of Canada to provide consulting services in one area or another, it allows you to test drive it. It allows you to get the reference, because often in federal government, we want to know that you've had, you know, 3 deals with government or government-like institutions in like the last 3 years, and we want you to show us those references. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing, where if you've never had work with the Government of Canada and then you go to bid on one of our processes, it can be very frustrating, because it may look like you need to have bid on something in order to actually bid on major opportunities. Again, what you want to do is cherry pick out the right opportunities that provide you the value. And if you find value in providing 4 procurement contracts to the government that are under $20,000 or around $20,000, you could get 80 grand off 4 government departments. That could really stimulate your business. It could change your direction. But I often say to people, getting government work has to be a strategic focus long-term for your company. And if you land a government contract short-term, because we call you, or you just end up in the right spot, take it and then start trying to figure out how you're going to build out your resume to include more government work without necessarily 100% focusing on it unless it's really appropriate. The thing that we'll do with OSME, just so you're aware, is that after sessions like this, you can actually talk to our team, and we can do a one-on-one meeting with you to talk about your specific needs or your specific direction. We'll take about 45 minutes with you on the phone, and we'll actually work through what you're specifically selling, what you're doing, and where the biggest impact could be for you when you look at levels of government and selling goods or services to government. So we always consider this type of webinar, this type of presentation, to be a first step in your process. We want you to take some of this information away and then come back at like a one-on-one type meeting with us. Over $25,000, government procurement, there's a lot more work potentially, and often there's a lot more paper. So we often refer to requests for proposals as being one of the mechanisms we use to buy stuff over 25K. Now, don't get me wrong, if you can win a contract using a request for proposal process as a small firm, I mean, you can land yourself a $250,000 contract. We have seen a lot of companies do that, but it's not the norm. Usually the norm is that you build your way up, you get into a process like a request for proposal or a request for standing offer or supply arrangement, and I'll talk about those in a second. So the big thing about doing business with any large organization, whether it's Government of Canada, provincial governments, large entities like Cspan or Brookfield or whoever else, is that often they have a pre-approved vendor list. You want to be listed on their, you want to be shortlisted for them as someone who is going to work with you potentially in the future. And if you can get up on these, if you can get on these lists, it will make a big difference because they may only call people off these lists. So standing offers for the Government of Canada are an example of this list where we have a commodity, a good or service, specifically, more so, sorry, a good, where we're buying it a lot. And if we buy it a lot, we're trying to negotiate deals where we, let's say, have 20 suppliers or 10 suppliers that are almost in a rotationary list where we could do call-ups against that list. So what we would do here is that we wouldn't necessarily, the moment you get on a standing offer, it's not a contract. What it is it allows for the opportunity for someone to call you from government and say, hey, you're on this list. It looks like you can deliver this good based on these specifications. We would like to do a call up and get you to deliver that good or service. That's what that is. Supply arrangements, there's often more flexibility, but it is similar. It's a list, a short list of companies that would be able to provide typically a service in a short period of time with what would be almost like a mini competition. They're the types of things where you would potentially see those opportunities happen. If you are looking for more information on supply arrangements or standing offers, I'm going to switch screens again here. I'll show you on the buy and sell website where there's some of this information as well. Okay, so we're going to go back to the buy and sell website. There we go. Okay, so on the buy and sell website, under the For Business tab, you can actually come down and there is going to be information. Just bear with me for a quick sec here. There's going to be some information that is available inside government, but also outside. And you can see about supply arrangements and standing offers here. This information can be very valuable for you as you try to sort out, because if there is a supply arrangement or standing offer or a preferred vendor list and you're not on it, you're not in the game. You cannot necessarily avoid these things if they're in place, and you need to actually be actively looking to see how these could impact you, because with standing offers, sometimes these opportunities, the door only opens and closes periodically, like every 2 to 3 years. And if you're not on that list, the only way that you can get business with the Government of Canada, for instance, is to actually subcontract to someone already on that list, which is also a possible option. But it's a consideration when you start looking at stuff. Okay. Hopefully this is all clear as mud so far. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to our presentation deck, and we'll keep going through this. Okay, here we go. All right, so there's some of these exist, and if you're in the service industry, if you're a consultant, if you're doing coaching, if you're in project management, often this pro services opportunity can be very valuable. It takes a bit to get in it, but once you get in, it can open up the door for areas of government to do business with you. That's an important piece to play. Select is about construction, engineering, contracting. If you're providing linguistic services, there's a particular thing for you, temporary help. So these are things that you need to have an awareness of. And like I said, one of the first questions you continuously ask yourself before you start doing any work on trying to sell your goods or services to the Government of Canada is figure out, do we buy the thing you're selling, and how do we buy it? What is the method we use as we're going through our processes? And if you get that information, it can lead to strategic decisions much more quickly. Collaborative procurement. This is a new thing, but all it basically says is that levels of government, the feds, the province, municipalities, the MASH sector, are getting into a place where we may use the same list. So if you apply and get on a federal list, there's an opportunity that maybe the province can also access that list. This is brand new and is likely to affect you 5 years from now. It's not necessarily going to affect you in the next year or two, unless you're in maybe one or two specific commodity groups. But it's not really that valuable to you as a group right now, other than to say that it exists. So the government of Canada is always trying to do competitive procurement. And what that means is that we're always trying to get multiple bids. We want best value for dollar, and we're trying our best to make sure that we're having a fully transparent process as we go. There's some circumstances where we're going to buy just from one company, and it could be that they actually have the IP or the rights to a particular product or service that we need, where there's no substitute. It could be that there's a pressing emergency during, floods, or during fires, or other catastrophic events. We may just bypass and move directly into a purchasing process. And if you're selling generators, or supplies, or catering even, all of those types of things can be scenarios where, in fact, if there's an emergency and you are close to the situation where you could deliver a good or service, it's really important for you to consider contacting levels of government. We are looking for businesses to work with us and to provide us some of that information. So at the end of the day, what we really want you to look at, moving through some of this stuff, these are other things that you would really not necessarily want to dive into now, and you have the deck. Some of the things we really want you to look at on the buy and sell website is how to start your process, how to start moving ahead and getting the information that you need to do business with the government, with any level of government, whether it be the federal or whether it be the provincial or what have you. These are kind of the big things that we want you to look at. The buy and sell website is a critical piece for you as a company. There's lots of information available here. The Government Electronic Directory Service, the departmental listings, is a great place to start, and to also know where it's appropriate to look at subcontracting or being a prime contractor. Now, I know this can be a bit of a fire hose. It's a lot of information to start. The biggest thing you want to walk away from this webinar is knowing that the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises exists, and that we are available to follow up with you to go over your particular needs, your good or service, to help you figure out where best to start looking at this as a strategic opportunity and to potentially open new markets for you, whether it's levels of government in Canada, whether it's larger organizations, prime contractors, or even the U.S. government. These are all opportunities that you should consider on the way through. I know that's probably just a couple minutes over. I'll send it over to Carrie Lee, but if there's any other questions or if there's follow-up, please put some information into the chat field. I'm just going to double check that on the very last slide of this deck, we'll have my contact information, but otherwise we'll provide it to you through the follow-up emails from the Women's Enterprise Center.
That's great. Thank you so much, John. Lots of information, lots to take in, and I think you sharing, your screen and showing people how to navigate the sites has definitely been beneficial, because sometimes that can be overwhelming. And just a reminder to everybody that this is also recorded, so you can access this on our website and kind of view it at your own pace if you want to do some digging and then listen to John again and do some more digging. It's a great tool for you to have. So we will get that uploaded and share that link with you as well. So again, thank you, John, for taking the time to provide this information and for being willing to share your contact information. We will put that in the follow-up email as well. So thanks again to everyone for joining us. And just to build on this as well, another way to for you to grow your business and access new markets and new clients is also exporting. And our next forum is actually on May 28th at 10 a.m. And we're going to discuss exporting options for your business, whether you provide a product or service. So another good way for you to get some growth. So again, thank you, John. Thank you to all our participants. We will wrap up for today. And watch for our follow-up email with more information, the survey, and of course, information that John has provided. So thank you, John.
You're very welcome, and thank you for everyone for participating.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
All the best.